Hey, how's it going, everyone? Zach D Productions here, and I'm here with a video that I knew I wanted to do for a while. I know I announced on the Demon Hunter Facebook group that I wanted to put out this video at some point in 2024 because, for those who don't know, 2024 marks 10 years of me being a fan of the band Demon Hunter. Which it's like, where did the time go? Because I do remember very well how I got into the band, where I was. I remember I was in my room whenever I gave them a chance, a proper chance. So I'm going to go over my experience and everything, how I got into the band, my experience being hyped for the new albums that they had coming out, and how I feel about the band nowadays. And I remember when I announced that I wanted to do this video on that Facebook group, there were a couple of weirdos talking their crap about me saying, "Oh, well, why do we need to see a video of you being a fan of the band? Dur, dur, dur." But it's like, you clearly don't get it. So you know what? Screw these people. And I've done this for other bands as well. I'm pretty sure I've done this for other bands as well. So it would only be reasonable for me to do one for Demon Hunter as well, to give them the same treatment. And not to mention, I know that to a lot of you, I am seen as the Demon Hunter guy on YouTube, especially in more recent years, because I think in the past there were other people that don't make videos anymore. Some of you might know who I'm talking about here, but there's other content creators in the past who don't make content anymore, who would always hype up Demon Hunter. But, you know, I think in more recent years, I've been seen as the Demon Hunter guy. I guess you could say that I've been carrying the torch when it came to being the Demon Hunter guy on YouTube. So there you have it. So a lot of Demon Hunter fans do know who I am, and the band probably even knows me as well, given that they have commented on my channel a few times, so there's that. So I want to start off with, of course, where it all started, how I became a fan of the band Demon Hunter. So my first exposure of the band, this is going back to early 2014. I was at a friend's house. I think it was some kind of party. I can't remember if it was like a birthday party or something, but I do remember it was a party that I was at my friend's house. And there was a playlist playing of Christian rock songs, and Driving Nails was one of the songs in that playlist. And I will admit, when I first listened to it, because this was my first exposure to the band, I have to be honest, I wasn't really feeling it. I wasn't that crazy about it. It didn't seem like a band that I could see myself getting into or whatever. So I just wasn't that crazy about it. And then a couple of months go by because I think technically I'll be celebrating 10 years of being a Demon Hunter fan in August. I think it was August of 2014 I got into the band. It was either August or July. I think it was around the summertime, though, I did get into the band. So, yeah. So, a couple of months go by. That same friend, that person's house that I was at, he gave me a CDR of Demon Hunter songs. And they were pretty much their hard rock, ballad, more accessible songs. So, not their super heavy stuff, which I understand why at the time he didn't put their heavy stuff on that CD, because at that time I wasn't that experienced with heavier music. Like, I wasn't really listening to super extreme stuff, and I still don't, to be honest. I still prefer more melody in my music. I know there's metalhead elitists that get on me for that, like, "Oh, you don't like anything extreme." Well, so what if that's true? It's a preference thing. It's not a big deal, guys. But I do like Demon Hunter's heavy stuff, don't get me wrong. It's still quite good, I would say. But I will say that I do prefer their more ballad side, their more melodic side. And maybe that's because that's the Demon Hunter that I first that I fell in love with for the first time. So there you have it. So what my friend put on this CDR was songs like Collapsing, Driving Nails, 1000 Apologies, Deteriorate, Tomorrow Never Comes, Dead Flowers. So again, more hard rock, more accessible. They're ballads pretty much. And those were the songs that I was listening to on this CDR. So when I put the CDR in my stereo, I'm like, you know what? This is a band that I can actually dig. I actually like what I'm hearing. Because I think the first song on that CDR was Collapsing. So when I first listened to that, I'm like, yeah, I can really dig this. I can see myself listening to this band for a very long time. And here we are 10 years later, I'm still listening to them. I'm still a fan. I would still consider myself a Demon Hunter fan to this day. So thanks to my friend at the time, he gave me that CDR. I don't even know where that CDR is nowadays. But, you know, I did eventually just buy all the Demon Hunter albums on CD anyway, so, whatever. Now, that friend that gave me the CDR, pretty much the person who got me into Demon Hunter, this is a guy that I don't really talk to these days. I mean, I don't have anything against him. I wish him nothing but the best, but he just kind of went his own way. He's just kind of doing his own thing, I guess. But yeah, so nothing against him, really. So, yeah, but he was the reason that I did get into Demon Hunter, because he gave me that CDR. And I'm really glad I gave this band a proper chance, even though I wasn't really crazy about what I first heard from them, you know, like I said on that playlist. So there you have it. And then I went to FYE and I wanted to buy my first Demon Hunter album on CD. I didn't care which Demon Hunter album it was. All I knew was I just wanted a Demon Hunter album on CD. So I picked up Extremist because that was the only one that they had. That was the newest album at the time because remember, this was 2014. So Extremist was the only album of theirs that they had in the store. So I just went with that. And, you know, I'm not going to lie. I do find Extremist to be a very underrated album. I think there's a lot of fans that really do crap on that album. I know there's some fans that say it's their worst or one of their worst or whatever. I do not agree with that. I do not agree with that. I think it's a solid album, even to this day. But yeah, when I purchased the album and then when I listened to it, I'm like, I can dig this. This is really solid. You know, I do remember enjoying songs like Artificial Light, I Will Fail You, Cross the Bear, Gasoline, Heart of a Graveyard, you know, these songs. Great tracks for sure. I mean, when I listened to it, I was honestly shocked by how heavy it was because, well, remember, before hearing that album, the only thing that I listened to was that CDR of their more accessible songs. So listening to their heavy stuff, it kind of did catch me off guard. I'm not going to lie. I'm like, is this the same band? You know, so yeah, but I was like, okay, yeah, so this is what the band sounds like. Like, this is what they're all about. Okay, yeah, but I could dig this, though. I dig this. And Demon Hunter was pretty much the band that got me into metalcore, and you could say that they were the band that got me into metal. So technically, you could say that this is also 10 years of me being into metal as well. But yeah, there's that. So I did enjoy the Extremist album. I still like that album. And then I think I eventually bought the rest of their albums on Amazon. I bought Extremist from FYE, and then I think True Defiance I got from Amazon. The World is a Thorn I got from Amazon. Summer of Darkness, the Triptych. And I think Storm the Gates I got at an exchange. Same with their debut album. I think their debut I got at an exchange as well. But yeah, I eventually got all their albums on CD. And like their live stuff, like Live in Nashville, which I didn't pick up till much later. I think I got that from either eBay or Amazon or something. I just know that I ordered that in the mail. So Demon Hunter pretty much defined my 2014. Like, when I think of the year 2014, honestly, Demon Hunter is one of the bands that comes to mind for me when I think of the bands that I got into that year or what have you. So they really did define that year for me. And then in 2015, I was still listening to the band. I was still enjoying their music. Maybe not as much as I was listening to them in 2014, because in 2015, I started to explore more in metalcore. And in 2016, for whatever reason, my Demon Hunter fandom sort of had like a resurgence. And I think the reason for that was because I was expecting a new album in 2016, because it's been a couple of years since their last album. And I noticed that every 2 years they put out a new album, so I was just like, well, maybe there's a new Demon Hunter album coming out in 2016. We'll see. But obviously we wouldn't get the next one till 2017, which would be Outlive. Now, I do believe that Outlive was actually announced in 2016. And I do remember when Outlive first got announced, I was stoked out of my mind. Like, I'm not even kidding. I don't think I've ever been so excited for an album in my life. And you have to remember, this was my first time ever experiencing the Demon Hunter hype, a new Demon Hunter album releasing. And I know that Outlive, it's not everyone's favorite Demon Hunter album. I know there's a lot of people that say that that's one of their weakest. I would agree. It probably is one of their weakest. But you know what? I think the album has aged decently. At least some of the songs, like Patience and Slight the Odds. Those are some of the best tracks on the album, I would say. So yeah, Outlive, it has its hits and misses, I would say. But it is one of their weakest overall. But it's not a bad album. I wouldn't say it's a bad album. I don't think it was as bad as everyone said it was. So I do remember being very excited. I remember when Cold Winter Sun came out as a single, and just hearing that song, look, it was one of those cases that was like, it didn't matter what kind of album or what kind of single Demon Hunter released. All I knew is that I wanted new Demon Hunter. And no matter if it was good or bad, I would listen to it nonstop either way. And that's just how it was for me. So I listened to the singles from Outlive nonstop, leading up to the album. And I do remember enjoying the album on release date. And yeah, I just remember really digging the album, just experiencing pre-ordering the album. I got the deluxe edition of that and also the standard edition as well. And it was probably one of my most listened to albums of 2017, maybe even my most listened to album of 2017. Because again, you have to remember, like I said, it didn't matter what kind of album Demon Hunter put out. I would listen to it nonstop no matter what. I was a biased fanboy, you could say. And I really took them seriously. So there you have it. And then by 2018, I wasn't really listening to Demon Hunter too much. I mean, I wouldn't say that they fell off for me, because I remember even in 2018, I was still listening to some stuff from Outlive. Like, I do remember listening to some stuff from that album. Just not nearly as much, though. So yeah, 2018, I wasn't listening to them too much. I was mostly listening to other bands. But then late 2018 came around, War and Peace get announced, and that really took me by surprise. I remember being very shocked in a good way, and also very excited, because we were getting 2 new Demon Hunter albums, even though it's technically just a double album. You get one album that's full of heavy songs or just more traditional Demon Hunter tracks, and you have another that's full of ballads, pretty much. So I was really hyped for this idea. And I remember when On My Side came out as a single, I did enjoy that song. The title track piece. I thought that song was just okay. I still think it's just okay. I mean, I actually don't mind that song. When Recuse Myself came out as a single, though, that's when I started to have really high hopes. because I was really blown away by that song, and it still remains as one of my favorite Demon Hunter songs to this day. Now, when War and Peace did come out officially, I do remember being somewhat disappointed in Peace because I was really hoping that there would be more songs like Recuse Myself, but there wasn't really a whole lot of songs like it. I mean, it's whatever, you know, it is what it is. But when it comes to both War and Peace, I do remember really liking the albums. And like how I was with Outlive back in 2017, War and Peace I listened to a lot in 2019. And I knew that I would listen to those albums a lot because, I mean, 2 albums, so that's like 20 songs each. Yeah, I'd be listening to a lot of those songs on repeat a lot. So there you have it. Now, I will say that I don't think that I was listening to War and Peace as much in 2019 as I was with Outlive in 2017. And then at this point, I started to notice, okay, I think maybe the bias is starting to fade out. And it was. The bias in me was kind of starting to fade out. I wasn't like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm done being a Demon Hunter fan or whatever, because I'm still not even like that to this day. But the bias was starting to wear off. I started to realize it's just a band. It's just a band, you know. I need to chill out, you know, stop being like obsessive and everything. Like, it's just a band. Okay, you know, no need to fanboy this much, even though I still do like the band. But I started to realize that the bias in me started to fade out. It started to wear off. I think it's a combination of a bunch of things. I think it's just between me maturing and also the fact that there's other bands out there that I also like. So there's that. But I still liked War and Peace. I still think those are solid albums for what they are. I'm not too crazy about everything off Peace, though. That's something that I will say. I think that album does have some of their worst songs, like Two Ways and Bet My Life. I'm not really crazy about those songs. I think those are honestly some of the worst Demon Hunter songs. I think War does have some good stuff, though, but it is kind of just standard Demon Hunter, you could say. But yeah, both albums, they, again, like with Outlive, they have their hits and misses. They have songs I like, songs that I'm not that crazy about. But they're not bad albums overall. They're still quite solid overall. They're still quite good. And I remember at this time, I think this was around the time when Demon Hunter did comment on my videos, which was very surprising and also very cool as well. So yeah, I was really stoked to find out that Demon Hunter was, getting involved with the fans and everything, which is cool. You know, that's always a good thing, you know, especially when it's a positive thing. So they commented on my videos, which is really cool. So yeah, and then in 2020, it's pretty much the same thing. Like, in 2020, I was still listening to some stuff from War and Peace, mainly Peace. I do remember returning to certain songs from that album in 2020, like Recuse Myself. That's a song that I still return to this day. And then I think it was late 2020, Songs of Death and Resurrection was announced, their acoustic album that was basically that featured some reimagined songs from their past albums. And I remember when they released Dead Flowers, the resurrected version of that, I remember really being stoked for that and really liking what I heard from that. So I was really excited for that acoustic album, and I know that a lot of people said that Songs of Death and Resurrection was pretty much the Demon Hunter album that we didn't even know that we needed. And yeah, I do remember when Songs of Death and Resurrection came out in 2021. I believe it was March 2021 that came out. I do remember liking the album. I do remember really enjoying it. I even liked the new song that was on there, Praise the Void, which this is when we found out that the next album would be titled Exile. That was a whole crazy scenario. I was mind blown when I found out about that. Like, they already announced the next album. Like, it was like an Easter egg in Exile, or in Songs of Death and Resurrection is what I meant to say. Pretty much, they stated that the song Praise the Void would be featured on the forthcoming album Exile. And I was like, okay, the next album is called Exile. It should release anytime in 2021 now, maybe later in the year, but it didn't come out till later in 2022, obviously. So we didn't know anything about when Exile was going to release. We just knew that at some point it was coming. I was hoping that at the time it would be a 2021 release, but that did not happen, obviously. And I was like, okay, it's probably going to be a 2022 release, probably sometime in the spring, because, I mean, reasonably so. I mean, it would be reasonable to believe that Exile would release sometime in the spring, because their past albums, like War and Peace, Outlive, Extremist, True Defiance, those were all spring releases, if I'm not mistaken. Or at least they came out sometime early in those years. But we didn't get Exile till October 2022. The album was actually delayed by like a month and a half. It was supposed to come out in September. I remember being really ticked off about that. You know, the delay meant, and just everything that was surrounding that album, the amount of singles that they dropped for the album and everything. It's like, I felt like that was really pointless, and it really spoiled the hype for the album. So, yeah, but I was still excited for Exile nonetheless. Still really looking forward to it. And September 2022 was actually when I got to see Demon Hunter live in concert. So that was my first time ever seeing the band, which that was a really good show. I'm glad I finally got to see Demon Hunter live. I mean, I will say that I do wish that I would have seen Demon Hunter sooner. Like, if I were to see them in, say, like 2015 or 2016, I think it would have had more of an impact on me. Because, well, like I said, it seemed like the bias was starting to fade out. And I feel like if I would have seen them sooner, it would have left me more in awe, more excitement, more, it just would have overall left an impact on me, you know, if I were to see them sooner. But oh well, it is what it is. I'm just glad that I did get to see Demon Hunter nonetheless. I mean, you could say it was a goal of mine, so that pretty much checks the box of seeing them live, you could say, of one of many goals in life I want to achieve. That's just one of many. So really cool to see Demon Hunter live. Getting to see the band perform these songs and everything. Got to see them play some of the stuff on Exile. And when the singles dropped for Exile, I was pretty hyped. Now, when Freedom is Dead came out as a single, I'll be honest, I didn't think it worked as a first single. And even to this day, I'm still kind of iffy about whether or not if it works as a first single. For a second single, maybe. I mean, for me personally, I think Silence the World would have worked better as a first single, which ended up being the second single. Now, when Silence the World came out as a single, I actually remember being pretty surprised by that song, pretty blown away by that song, really enjoyed it, and I still like that song. And it had a guest appearance on it. And that was another thing with Exile. It was their first album since The World is a Thorn that they had guest appearances. You had Max from Soulfly on a song, and you also had Richie from Judas Priest on a song on that album. I am a Judas Priest fan. So it was really cool to hear about those guest appearances. So yeah, I really did enjoy Exile for what it was. I do remember enjoying Along the Way especially, which honestly might be one of my favorite Demon Hunter songs. Still might even be my favorite on Exile. It's one of their longest songs. It actually might be their longest song. But yeah, I just find that song to be just phenomenal. So Yeah, overall, Exile I thought was good. I mean, I overall would say it's a step up from War and Peace. And I know it was a concept album as well. And I know it was their first time doing that. And I think it was also their first album going independent, if I'm not mistaken, like without their producer or whatever. I mean, I think Jeremiah produced the past few Demon Hunter records, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, but like without a record label or whatever, they pretty much did this on their own. And I think they did a pretty good job for doing this on their own. So there's that. But yeah, I did enjoy Exile for what it was going for. So, and then in 2023, I was still listening to Exile. You know, I still listen to certain songs from that album. Yeah, but that's pretty much how it went for me in 2023. I was still listening to them, but you know, I was listening to other bands too. You know how it goes. And then I heard about them re-releasing, repressing some of their classic albums. So I did pick up a couple of those repressings. You know, now when it comes to the reissues of those CDs that they put out, I do wish they would have done something different with those. But it is what it is. You know, make the artwork maybe a little bit different, or even the booklet. Like maybe at least make the booklet, the disc, something. Make something different. It's basically the same thing that they released before, except it's in digipack form. But oh well, it is what it is, I guess. But yeah, I did pick up a couple of those reissues. I don't know if I'm gonna get all of them. Maybe at some point I will, but we'll see. But yeah, I was still listening to Demon Hunter. I mean, I still listen to them nowadays, if not as much. Um, but yeah, here we are in 2024. Now, I'm not gonna lie. In 2024, I was hoping that maybe we'll get a new Demon Hunter album, and maybe we will. Who knows? Like maybe later this year we'll get a new Demon Hunter album, but you know, if that is the case, they'll have to start teasing stuff very soon because we're in March now. So if we get a new Demon Hunter album in, let's say, later this year, they'll have to start teasing stuff soon. But honestly, I'm not really expecting anything till 2025, but I guess we'll see what happens. Now, they have been releasing some singles here and there, like pretty much outtakes from Exile, like, of course, The Brink, Some of Us, Worlds Apart. And I do like those songs, so yeah. And I could see why they weren't placed on Exile, because they wouldn't have flowed as well. So that was something worth pointing out. So, yeah, I do remember liking those songs when they released. Worlds Apart is still pretty new as a song, so yeah, I do like that song. It's probably my favorite of the singles that we've gotten of the outtakes so far. So, yeah. But that's where we're at now. All right, so that's where we're at now. I still like the band today. I mean, there was a point where I did consider them to be my favorite band of all time. I don't know if I'd say they're number one nowadays, but I would still maybe place them in my top 20, or 25 25 favorite bands or whatever. So, yeah, I still like the band, still enjoy their music, so that's kind of where we're at today. So that was my experience being a Demon Hunter fan. Uh, Everything from experiencing new albums, seeing the band and everything. Oh, when I did see the band, I actually did get a copy of Exile at the show. Yeah, I know. I'm one of the people that did get the CD at the show before it was officially released, even though I already had the deluxe edition pre-ordered. So there you go. But oh well, can't hurt to have more than one copy, which I probably would have done anyway. So because they're two totally different versions of the album. So that's pretty much my journey, my story, being a Demon Hunter fan. 10 years. 10 years being a Demon Hunter fan. That's really crazy to believe. I mean, where did the time go? So that's about all for this video. Let me know what you think. If you're a Demon Hunter fan, how long have you been a fan? Feel free to share some of your experiences. Do you have a favorite album from the band? Feel free to let me know. So with that said, thank you for watching. Have a good one.